Well, it appears we're live. Give me a heads up. Let me know that you can hear us okay. Hopefully you can. Well, it appears we're live. And I got to mute that. I don't know why that came up. There we are right there. Look at that. So, first and foremost, I want to say hello to everybody in the house as you stream into the room. And you've got some names up here. We've got your chat also here in the window. You see a little bit of different studio setup. And it's a little more elaborate.
We needed more workspace.
Yes, we needed more workspace for this project. So as you see here, the beautiful Malia.
Hi, everybody.
She's been amazing on this. She has created all of the pieces of this documentation here and gone through these videos painstakingly and mapped them out. And the reason why we've done this is because I'm going to post this document in the community section after the video today. So you can go to each one of the videos that we show, because we can't play all of the videos in their entirety, but you're going to want to go look at those. Right. So there's a lot in these things. There's a lot in these videos. So it's going to be important that you go read the references that Malia has put together for you. After the show, you'll be able to, like I said, even download this document. I'll put it up on Scribe, and you'll be able to download this document yourself. So you can go through these and just click on the links and go to the time spaces that she's mapped out here.
You know, one of the reasons that Derek and I decided to come to you with this information was not because we wanted to. Last week, we were looking at doing a video on perception and deception, and we were going a totally different way. And as always, we're always researching YouTube and we're researching different topics. And we both really enjoy listening to Steve Danoon on Israeli News Live. And I noticed that his wife, Yana, had also been contributing to their shows. So we just happened across one of their shows on the Noahide laws. And we'd been interested in Noahide and learning more about that. And we both thought that because we both have is Jewish ties, I have a daughter who's Jewish.
And
Derek is Jewish, right?
So we've got that background,
right? And we wanted to carefully broach this subject because we are totally non-anti-Semite. We just wanted to research this, and we thought a great place for us to start was with the Danoons, because of course they're Hebrew and. Mm-hmm. They have such a knowledge, but they also, what I love about Steve Danoon, and many of you probably watched them, is that he has a balanced voice when talking about Israeli politics and how they operate their war machine and that sort of thing. So we really appreciate that about him. So we knew that we would be getting good information. So that kind of started our conversation about it. And then we ran across a video from someone who was actually one of your dissenters. And what was his name?
On Point Preparedness.
Right.
One of the first attack videos that I had, On Point Preparedness, which he graciously took down the attack video. We did communicate afterwards, and I think I might have been able to clarify some things for him. But he's a good-hearted guy. He definitely means well. But he put together a very extensive video on Noahide laws. It'd probably be good for you to check those out as well over mm-hmm. on Point Preparedness. I'll always point you to people that are on point about the points that we're discussing. The thing that I think is important about what we're going to be discussing and what we're going to be showing you is there is an urgency to this. The reason why there's an urgency is because of the laws that are coming into place, and we're going to be getting to that here with when we show you some of Steve Danoon's video. But I also wanted, if Malia, if you could say, you recognizing this and seeing this, how did that impact you, and where did that come from?
I'm not going to lie. Because I'm from the Bible Belt South, Zionism is very popular in the churches, mm-hmm. and I always had a pastor in my home church. I went to an Assembly of God church, and we often had Zionist speakers who would come in. Yehuda Levy, who was one of the hunger strikers on the Golan Heights, Ronnie Levy, his son. So we had a deep-seated respect for the right for the Jews to occupy their homeland, and I still feel that way. So I didn't grow up with any anti-Semitism. So some of the things that Derek has been teaching been difficult for me. So when he talks about, you're of your father, Satan, I'm like, hold on, wait a minute. I don't know that I understand that. But what I will have to say, Derek, is that many times during the course of this last week, I looked over at you and I said, I can't unsee what I've seen now.
Mhm.
And so it's with a great deal of sobriety. I think that we come today to say some things, and again, in no way meaning any disrespect for any nationality of peoples. I have a daughter who's Jewish, so trust me, I don't want to see some of these things. But the truth is these things are staring us in the face. They've been coming about since the mid 70s politically, and even from before that. We're going to lay out some of these things step by step. And more than just a law, it's really what would be termed in like a universal code of ethics being imputed to all non-Jewish peoples, or what we would call goyim or Gentiles. And that can present a problem for us. And we're going to lay that out for you. We're going to go through the 7 Noahide laws. We're going to give you some various commentary on that and let you do some research yourselves, because we don't want to lead you to a belief. We just want to open the box and let you take a look inside and come up with your own determination.
Yes, and it's important to know that that as we're speaking about this group, the Zionist aspect of Judaism, that there are numerous scriptures in the New Testament, including in Revelation, that point to exactly this when it says in Revelation, for they say they are Jews, but they lie. So when we reference them and they reference to themselves as Jewish, understand that some of the research that we found, the ones that have done this, might not actually even be Jewish. So with also that said, this comes from the place that you have to wonder where the Pharisees and the Sadducees went. Where did they go? And when you see from a historical perspective that there are sects of Jews that have killed each other, and even sects of Jews that helped Hitler round up the Jews.
Right. And that's well documented in books that are written by Jewish authors who were survivors of the Holocaust or descendants of survivors of the Holocaust, where they talk in depth about that. And we won't go into too much depth on that, because if you go in and watch some of the videos that we've linked on the in the box below, you'll see that there are several books that Steve Danoon and his wife talk about. So we don't have to reiterate those, but there are several books on that very topic.
Yeah, so what we're going to do is we're first just going to help you understand, and you can read the 7 Noahide laws and we're going to walk through those. But also know that the 7 Noahide laws are regulated by the Talmud. And so you actually have to go into the Talmud to understand the gravity of what they're discussing. Because see, the 7 Noahide laws don't apply to Jews.
Only to Gentiles.
Only to Gentiles. So the Jews are very, very concerned about getting these laws before the Gentiles. And if you recognize that in Revelation, obviously, if you profess Christ, then you're decapitated. Well, that's precisely the penalty for professing Christ within the Noahide laws.
And you're going to see that. You know, the Talmudic rabbis are actually ideologically basically the same as the Pharisees. You know?
Yeah.
The Pharisees kind of died out, and then the Talmudic rabbis, started writing their commentaries on the Torah. So there's a sect of Jews, obviously, who believe in the written word, and the sect that truly believes more in the rabbinical teachings. And that's where you get into that slippery slope of a lot of translation and a lot of commentary. And that's where these laws originate. So again, that's something that you really need to pay attention to, and who's doing the talking. And we're going to lay that out in just a second.
Yes, and the urgency to have this conversation now is because, as I said, there is legislation that is being passed that would prohibit this very conversation. That if the Jews felt that this was offensive, or that we were revealing something that they didn't like, they could literally fine you or imprison you. So this is actually taking place, and it's startling. That's why you say you can't unsee and you can't unhear these things. The gravity of these folks, the nature by which their words come,
the vitriol.
We're going to go into some of these details, because for the and we're going to explain to you who the organization is that established this, and the rabbi that established it, and his words about who we are is it's startling.
Yeah.
it's going to startle you. So let's get started with that. All videos that we play are covered under fair use in this. So I just wanted to have that fair use notice for those. And if anybody has a video that's on this and you have an issue with it, contact me directly, and I'm happy to edit out your piece if necessary. So the organization that has been establishing the Noahide laws. Now, the Noahide laws were first recorded, I think, at about 100 BC. So first recorded, and again, this was a Talmudic sect of Judaism. So make sure that you understand this, that when we say the Jews, we're speaking specifically of the Talmudic Jews. But this is the largest Jewish religious organization in the world right now, and also the most well-funded. And it's classified as an NGO, a non-governmental organization, but funded by the government. So recognize that this has gotten much deeper, and it's been happening very quietly behind the scenes, even though right in front of our face. So the organization is called Chabad. Now, Chabad Lubavitch is the organization. You can see here, this is the class of the, let's say, call them the elders, so to speak. And I want to make this clear because in their own statements, right from their own site, you can go to Chabad.org. The word Lubavitch is the name of a town in White Russia where the movement was based for more than a century. Appropriately, the word Lubavitch in Russian means the city of brotherly love, or Philadelphia. The name Lubavitch conveys the essence of the responsibility and love engendered by the Chabad philosophy toward every single Jew, only Jews. So remember that they say that they want to cause world peace with these 7 Noahide laws, but that requires you, a Gentile, to submit to these laws or they kill you. Now, they're allowed to kill, even though one of the laws you're going to see is thou shalt not murder. But see, since the Noahide laws don't apply to the Jews, only the Gentiles, well, they're perfectly free and clear to kill you. And make no mistake about it, I'm not kidding. So the 7 Noahide laws are, number 1, do not profane God's oneness in any way. Acknowledge that there is a single God who cares about what we are doing and desires that we take care of his world.
Now, remember, Derek, the single God is how they define the single God. So the way we would say our Father, the Holy Spirit, and the Son are one in a single God, that is not clearly the definition that they will impose. So if you don't believe in the single God, and we'll show more sound bites from this in a little bit to lay out exactly what they mean, is you're going to die. You're going to die.
You're going to die.
Because you're going to violate 2/3 of these laws.
You're going to, now understand this. Now remember, when a lot of people had an issue where I was trying to make a point where Christ was pointing out that the God of this world is Satan. Keep in mind, for they say they are Jews but lie, they are a synagogue of Satan. Now it says that that a God who cares about what we are doing and desires to take care of his world. Remember, the world that Christ told you to die to. So again, which God are we talking about? Do not curse your creator. No matter how angry you may be, do not take it out verbally against your creator. Now, if you looked at the Talmudic law and you understand that it's the verbal tradition and that they can alter these at will, it's just verbally, they can change them at will. They can find whatever they want offensive in what you say towards the creator.
And you can't utter the name. You can only use a substitution for the name.
Yes.
I think it's been the habit.
Yeah, that's why it's G, capital G dash God. You can't even say God. So do not murder. The value of human life cannot be measured. Now, the amazing part is human life. Make no mistake about it. They consider themselves human, not you, the goyim.
You are not human.
You're not human. You are a different species. To destroy a single human life is to destroy the entire world. You're going to learn a lot more about what that means when we get to some of these other videos. because for that person, the world has ceased to exist. It follows that by sustaining a single human life, a Jew, that you are sustaining an entire universe. A Jew only, though. Do not eat the limb of a living animal. Now, I don't know how you eat the limb of a living animal.
I'm not sure.
Hold him down while he's screaming, but respect the life of all God's creatures as intelligent beings. We have a duty not to cause undue pain to other creatures. Well, they could be guilty of this one, but since they don't have to adhere to these laws themselves, because if they're killing the goyim, well, then they would be causing undue pain. Do not steal, harness and channel the human libido, establish courts of law, and ensure justice in our world. Now, those courts of law will be established with a Talmudic judgment system, a Talmudic judge, a sect of elders, which has already been set up underneath the temple with the 70 seats and the 24, just like Scripture says. So that's all been put into place.
And these all sound logical, and they sound so closely related to the Ten Commandments. But if you watch the wording carefully, and I've seen these worded a little differently, but primarily they're very subjective. So again, it's just subject to how you define a certain word as to whether you might be guilty or not guilty of breaking this law.
Yes, and remember that they're managed by the Talmudic laws. Now, if you've not read the Talmud, you're probably going to be startled when you do, because it reads like you've been told radical Islam thinks. That's exactly how it reads, that you can violate, just to give you an idea, part of the laws, that a Jew can violate sexually a child under 3 years old because you really didn't take their virginity, because it will heal and they'll be normal again before they even remember it. So there are some very disturbing things in the Talmud. So am I talking against the Talmud? Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. So Malia found this article, and this is on a website called counterpunch.org.
So basically, the Chabad Lubavitch movement, or it's one of the primary members of it, or the facilitators of this movement, is Rabbi Schneerson. And our Rabbi Schneerson did talk about some wonderful things, and he coalesced this whole environment of giving and loving gestures. However, a lot of people don't see some of his lesser taught ideas or beliefs about non-Jews. And I'm just going to read through some of these, and these will also, we will include this in the narrative that we will, I guess we're going to post it on the site.
Yes.
So, and why should we be concerned? Because he believes that Jews and non-Jews are two different species. And the only reason we exist is to serve Jews. So I'm just going to read through these. Some of the Schneerson's rarely reported teachings. The difference between a Jewish and a non-Jewish person stems from the common expression, "let us differentiate." Thus, we do not have a case of profound change in which a person is merely on a superior level. Rather, we have a case of let us differentiate between totally different species. This is what needs to be said about the body. Now, this is according to Rabbi Schneerson. The body of a Jewish person is of a totally different quality from the body of all the nations of the world. Their bodies are different than your bodies. The difference in the inner quality between Jews and non-Jews is so great that the body should be considered as completely different species. And we're going to hear from Doreen Dotan, and she talks about this. And if you've watched any of her videos, and we've both been watching videos of hers probably for 4 days straight, and she talks about this on multiple levels. They even talk about a greater difference exists with regard to the soul. Now, this one's really going to get you. Two contrary types of souls exist. A non-Jewish soul comes from 3 satanic spheres, while the Jewish soul stems from holiness. As has been explained, an embryo is called a human being. Now, this is where that law about not killing humans comes into play, because it has both a body and a soul. So a human being has a body and a soul, like we all believe we do. Thus, the difference between a Jewish and a non-Jewish embryo can be understood. So what he's saying is that a non-Jewish embryo has a body, but you don't have a soul.
Yes.
That's a problem.
So according to the Talmud and the teachings of Chabad.org and their founding rabbi, you're soulless pigs. That's literally how they see you. You
were actually a created being, and the Jew was not created, which is really kind of creepy when you start. And you've talked a lot about this, Derek, about some people are not human, and you know what? A lot of what they say is right. We are human. They're not.
Yes.
And that's what's so weird about this. You're going to hear in some of these clips that really admitting to that. And it's kind of terrifying. So I won't read all of these. So there's more here. Basically, we're here to serve the Jews. We're subservient. We're called dogs in a lot of places. Ergo, Jesus saying even the dogs eat the scraps from the table. So apparently these Noahide laws are the bare minimum laws that we are supposed to be able to sustain as dogs, because we are not necessarily righteous enough or even capable of keeping the 10 Commandments. And that has been, and I'm paraphrasing that from multitudes of videos we've watched, so I'm not ascribing that to anyone or that phrase to Rabbi Sneerson. I'm just saying that's basically the culmination of what we've learned over the last several days.
Yes, and keep this in mind, that we are not speaking about all Jews. We are speaking about this organization, this sect of Zionist Jews that even separate themselves. They don't even see other Jews as Jews unless you are with them. But it is the most powerful and most well-funded religious Jewish organization in the world.
Over $100 million flows in and out of this organization every year.
Well, yeah, but that was early on.
And that was according to the New York Times. Again, we have that posted in the article. It was like 2015.
Yeah, so it's quite startling. So again, just to let you know that all of these links and all of the times of the things that are spoken of within it, the link to this article, everything will be in the community section on Global Witness site. We're not sending you to Rightly Divided tonight.
Right.
We're going to stay right here. The reason why is because the things that we're going to be saying, we're not actually going to say. We're going to let these folks say it for themselves.
And even on their site here, when you go back to the Chabad.org, I recommend you all go there because you can read it yourselves. But it's not a religion, it's a movement, and it's a political movement. And they say this. So, and of course, they've got, you're going to see lobbyists, you're going to see how these folks get seats before Congress, and they're able to institute education days and that sort of thing. And we've been doing this since the mid-'70s with all of our presidents.
Yes. So every single president since Jimmy Carter, on March 26th of every single year, multiple times, including Barack Obama and recently Donald Trump, every single one of them reaffirmed and re-signed these Noahide laws under the guise of education, which we're going to get into.
Someone's posting here, Zionists stole the identity of the real Jews. You know what? We've been reading that, particularly these Jews who come from this the white Russian area, who, decided to follow Judaism, but they don't really have a bloodline of being a Hebrew, of being Jewish. So technically they couldn't even be, under the current law, citizens of Israel.
Yeah, and you have to then wonder, it's such a very gigantic strategy and how long it's been in play. So that's why I asked that question. Who was it? Who were the Jews that were helping Hitler kill Jews? And why were they trying to eliminate certain sects of Jews and wipe them out? Because they wanted to pose as Jews? So this is the whole point. We might be saying Jew, but it is this specific group, Chabad.org, and the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, which has worked very, very hard, tirelessly, to work with every single administration since Jimmy Carter to have these Noahide laws. Now, these Noahide laws have also been adopted by the United Nations, which we'll show you. So if you don't think that this is serious, you're gonna have a little bit of a wake-up call here. So let's go to this. Yeah, so this is a document which I also will include within the community section. As I said, after this, I'll post it all for you in the community section. And this is the United Nations with 7 Noahide laws. And this is from UN.org. So just so you understand that this has taken place. Now, the first video that I'm going to play a piece of is you're going to hear this is actually at UN headquarters. And this is posted by one people, one world under God. So one world government and one world religion. So now you know where the New World Order is coming from. Now you know where the banking systems, now you know where all of these people, now you begin to understand that this is the tip of the spear for the tribulations that's spoken of in Revelation. And this is Mobilizing Culture and Religious Ethics, the United Nations headquarters. So we'll play a little bit of this right now. And this is going to be introducing David Cohn, who is the Rabbi David Cohn, who is now the main rabbi that pushes the 7 Noahide laws within the government. He's the one that signed it with Donald Trump and their coalition of other Talmudic Jews that were there.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our next session, Religious and Cultural Values as a Driver for the Implementation of Post-2015 Sustainable Development Goals. My name is Marty Uhliner. I'm the mayor of the village of Lawrence. I'm the chairman of the Religious Zionists of America. And I thank Shoshana and Ms. Flores, Ambassador Flores, for having us here today. It is really an honor to be here and introduce our panel. The subject that we're going to be talking about are the Noahide laws and the post-2015 agenda. And leading that charge certainly is Rabbi Yaakov David Cohn, founder and director of the Institute of Noahide Code. He comes from an education at Lubavitch. He's been educated has his degree from Lubavitch and an additional degree in Australia. But most importantly, I think what we need to pause upon is the great work of the Lubavitcher Rebbe himself in having the foresight of being the first in the early 80s to introduce this program of Noahide mitzvos, the Sheva mitzvos shel b'nei Noach. He was an unusual person, an unusual being. He was a person of unlimited resources and foresight. And one of his major focuses on a Saturday, Parshas B'Shalach in 1986, was to purposely focus on this important need for how it would change the world. He was focused on the fact that this was something that had to be revived. It hadn't been looked at for many years. And what he was able to do was convince Congress, who had earlier in the Reagan administration understood the importance of the Sheva Mitzvot Shel B'nai Noach, to, on something called Education Day, to go forward with this very important project. And rather than introduce the other speakers at this time, I'd like to call upon Rabbi Cohn.
So you'll be able to watch the entire speech by Rabbi Cohn here. It's a lot of veiled niceties about how it's peaceful and all of this, but this is where you have to understand the background of how the Noahide laws get administered. And that is, as I said, again, Talmudic. But this is in the UN. Now, who this man was just speaking about was the founder of Chabad.org. So that is what I was telling you, about Chabad Lubavitch. So this is the organization that he was talking about. This is also the rabbi that was honored and continually honored until he died, which we read in that article here. Why is the U.S. honoring a racist rabbi? This is the guy that said that we're not human, that Goyim are not human. So I wanted to just make that clear. Now, we'll have the link, as I said, with this document in all of these videos. The other thing is, we want to go to, this is now when we're going to get into the psychology and the arrogance, the staggering arrogance that now it's breaking down. They're almost forced to reveal themselves, because it's kind of like, what authority do you come with? Well, now they're kind of expressing that authority. And you see that in Doreen Dotan, some of the things that she says that you'd just be startled.
Right.
But more importantly, listen to what is taking place from a strategic standpoint, what they've done in order to prepare for this day today, to shut everybody up So the Anti-Defamation League and all of the ways around probably the worst act of political correctness ever will come from this group. So listen to where this started. And this is Steve Danoon and his wife
Yana
on Israeli News Live channel. Oh, crud. Where was that? We just lost it. Sorry, folks. Let me get to that.
722.
722.
Yeah. And they're going to be talking about anti-Semitism, and she's coined a new phrase called anti-Gentilism,
Yes,
which I think is pretty adequate. You know, you start to look at racism in all forms, and this is really racist. And, you know, no longer will we be able to have an opinion that is considered anti-Semitic, because then we will be decapitated.
Yes, decapitated.
But if the criticism is geared against us, it would be anti-Gentilism, which I think is interesting coming from two Hebrews. So.
Yes.
There is dissent expressed in the United States against policies of the Israeli government. People here are called anti-Semitic. What is your response to that as an Israeli Jew?
Well, it's a trick. We always use it.
She said it's a trick.
We always use it.
We always use it.
From Europe, somebody is criticizing Israel, then we bring up the Holocaust. When in this country people are criticizing Israel, then they are anti-Semitic. And the organization is strong and has a lot of money, and the ties between Israel and the American Jewish establishment are very strong, and they're strong in this country.
Now, this is the former Israeli minister. So it's not some nobody talking.
You know, they have power, which it's okay. They are talented people and they have power, money, and media and other things. And their attitude is Israel, my country, right or wrong. They identify fiction. And they are not ready to hear criticism. And it's very easy to blame people who criticize certain acts of the Israeli government as anti-Semitics, and to bring up the Holocaust and the suffering of the Jewish people. And that justify everything we do to the Palestinians.
Okay, so yeah. You see, she said it's a trick. If you criticize Israeli government,
To that,
she said to call people like this anti-Semites is a trick. They either bring up anti-Semitism or they bring a Holocaust. So this is what's happening still with this anti-Semitism bill. I'm worried.
Let me grab this two books right here, because
Yeah, and we will come back.
what
to
a lot
these
of people
books.
don't realize when we talk about these tricks and stuff, they don't want these things brought up because, and this is only two of the books that I've been reading. Yano's read a lot more, and of course you guys have seen this before. The Holocaust, Victims Accused, and of course Ben Chait's Perfidy. And both of these books right here, these are written by the Jewish people because of, in the case of Ben Chait, he had discovered as a journalist the crimes that were being committed by Zionists against our own people. You know, when you mention, Yana, that we are Jews and we're not self-hating Jews, as you know, and I know in your family there have been Jews that were killed in the Holocaust from your family, and my family I've had it as well. I've been to practically every Holocaust camp where my family died in, and it's always a moving experience for me to have to go. I lost family in Auschwitz, I lost family in Dachau, and several other camps as well. But the Holocaust Victims Accused is probably the most powerful of all the books that I have read thus far, because these are testimonies of rabbis that tried desperately to get the people, the Zionists and the Jewish Congress to help liberate the Jews because it was within their power. Mm-hmm. So when she's talking about that they call it anti-Semitism, if you speak anything against the Holocaust, it's because the true record of what happened and the complicity of the crimes that were being committed were also not just by the Germans, but the Germans had help. I mean, we have to remember, I mean, we already see it in the movies. We had Jewish police that policed the Jews. The men, a lot of times that were in power over the Jews were also turning in our own people, turning their backs on them. And of course, they would answer directly to Jews that were involved in Switzerland. They were involved with the American Jewish Congress, and all these different groups today are the very ones that have forged the relationship between the Vatican with the Nostra Aetate and with Israel, and they're all pushing towards this new world order. And this is why they didn't want any of this to come out, because the real agenda for creating the state of Israel is to bring about a new world order. And these so-called Zionist Jews are really embedded in the Vatican for a new world order agenda, and they did not care about the Jewish people that wanted to truly see the coming of the Messiah.
Right. Another very good book is called The Transfer Agreement.
Yes, it is.
And
I read that one as well.
Written by a Jew,
yes.
Okay, whose family died in Holocaust. And he's writing about how the Jewish organizations made agreement with Hitler regime to execute their own people. So who is anti-Semite here? They were killing, Jews were killing their own and making agreements with Nazi party. And then they allowed few Jews inside the Palestine at that time, right? And they allowed to bring products, German products, to Israel. Basically, Hitler helped to build the state of Israel. And then
I think we can stop it right here. You know, they're talking about what I see here is forcing prophecy by pushing agenda.
Yes.
The Zionist Jews forcing prophecy and pushing agenda, which is why so many people are going to fall for this Antichrist. It's unfolding just beautifully, but I never would have thought it would have come in this way. You know, I wasn't thinking along these lines, like a sect of Jews would have so much influence over the government. And we're going to show you a clip in just a second about that. You're going to see Ronald Reagan actually signing, you know, these statements, and they do it every year. Basically, is it April the 2nd?
No, March. This month, March 26th.
Right. So every president has done it all the way back to Jimmy Carter. And the truth is that, and Steve, I think, says this later in the video, is that until the Noahide laws are spread throughout the whole world, Messiah cannot come. So again, doing this to force prophecy, push agenda, to get that to come. Now, Derek thinks they've already picked out the Messiah.
Yes.
And that could very well be, you know.
Their Messiah, right? So
right.
Keep in mind that they say that their Messiah hasn't come yet. So the reality is that they've most likely picked. Now, when you listen to some of the statements that we're going to be playing a little later, you're going to hear something that sounds an awful lot like the architect in the Matrix.
Now, when Gilbert Nowak commented the 7 Noahide laws are derived from the Talmud, not the Torah, absolutely correct.
Yes.
Almost all Jews now follow rabbinical teachings, not the actual written Torah.
Yes, and the rabbinical teachings, remember that they don't actually follow the written word. They even say this. They don't follow the written word. They follow the spirit of the teachings, the traditions, which is why Christ referred to that, said, you follow the traditions of your father. You completely ignore your words. So that's why he pointed out their hypocrisy constantly. So, and those rabbinical teachings today have become Talmudic. They're Talmud teachings.
Right. Now, the Sadducees actually followed the written code and they kind of died off. And then, of course, the Pharisees are the precursors to the modern day Jew. Yes.
So when you want to know who runs and builds and made the Matrix, if you listen to them, you're going to, they'll basically, they say that they do. They say that they did. They even say that they made us. That they're the creators of us. Not only that, but you're going to hear that they created God too.
They created
God. God didn't create them. Remember, they say that they're not created. We're created, but they're not created. They just existed. In other words, they are God. It's there. You can't make this stuff up. You really can't.
I think if you go to 19 in this video is where we'll see the President Reagan. We don't have to stay on that very long, just so you know that this does happen. This is actual video of Ronald Reagan meeting with Rabbi
Yes.
Sneerson himself.
Rabbi Sneerson. This is
Started on the level of education, specifically by returning the traditional values which have been the bedrock of civilization ever since the beginning. And these are the 7 Noahide laws contained and given by Moses, as it is reflected here in this scroll.
Now, he's saying that those 7 Noahide laws given by Moses are right there on that scroll.
Yeah, and he just signed them and then sent good wishes to the Rebbe.
The bedrock, as he said.
The bedrock of civilization.
they are the bedrock of civilization.
But written 100 BC.
Yes.
All right.
So what do we have next on this?
We talked about, this is kind of a, this will set us up for listening to some of Doreen Dotan's videos. Now, if any of you have been watching Derek's channel for long, I think you even linked her. She's entertaining at the very minimum, and she's knowledgeable about Hebrew. Her knowledge is just unfathomable about the origins and the basis of the Hebrew language, but she also uses gematria. And Steve Danoon has a problem with that, and it's kind of funny, their banter back and forth. We won't go through all of it, but basically she equates gematria for something she likes and makes it all positive gematria. And then Derek pulled up.
Yeah, so I'll just give you
to show you.
Yes, I'll give you a so gematria.
Right.
So as people have done before, so what Steve Danoon is saying, that when somebody, and they quite often do this, when somebody is using gematria to describe the value of a word and what that word means, which Doreen Dotan does quite often, that they can pick and choose based on the value and what the value of that is. So if you just went to gematrix.org and type in my name, just to give you an example, 331 is the Jewish gematria value, which is also Emmanuel, Second Coming, Red Bull. Whoops, I like Red Bull. So.
Name of Moshiach?
Yes, name of Moshiach. But then it's also fall like lightning, so Satan as well. So you can pick. You can either find the devil or you can find Emmanuel.
Right, God's son, and they kind of vary all over the board. In fact, they're kind of like antithesis, just like they're opposites of each other. It's almost as if the gematria of your name is the greatest capacity for good or the worst capacity for evil within each one of us, which we already know exists.
Yes, and so but as another example, as I said, you can't ignore, because the intent is behind what they do. So everybody knows the Skull and Bones Secret Society at Yale, which George Bush and many other political leaders have been part of. Very powerful organization, very secret. Their number is 322. And so if you look at the gematria value of 322, you'll hear the Zionist, you'll hear Chabad, they'll all refer to the only powerful, all-powerful God of Israel. Well, 322 means God of Israel. And ironically, in English gematria, its value is 666. So
you could derive almost any outcome you want using gematria.
So we just found that was interesting. So let's go back here. What I wanted to do, do we have anything else with Steve here?
Nothing else with Steve, although we are going to use a clip that he uses of Doreen Dotan. And I think this is really important because, and I would love to hear your comments about this as well. It's almost like she talks about Christians and believers of Yeshua are evil, but Yeshua was just fully misunderstood. So she covers him because he's a Jew, almost feeling sorry for him because we have misconstrued all of his teachings. And so there's a clip at 39.
And this is with on
this
here?
Is Doreen, yeah.
Okay, and that's 39.
39. This is Doreen at her best.
It is they who went up against the God of Israel.
I think this is inherent in their video. Their audio video is off.
Everything that the Christians have ever said about the Jews is not really aimed at us. It's aimed at the God of Israel.
Does she talk about Holocaust here?
They are that which attempts to stand in opposition to God. Now, every other religion, every other tradition might have ideas in them that Jews consider erroneous. But they are not against the God of Israel. All of the teachings of the Christians about the Antichrist, what they really mean is that they themselves are anti-God. They have done everything they can to drive a wedge into the house of Israel, to dig under our house. I have absolutely no reason to believe that Yeshua ben Miriam is quoted correctly in the Christian Bible.
Okay, you can, because
I can base that on
20 minutes.
When
So
she talks about
The audio's a little out of sync on
Right.
that video, but so what she's saying, and again, this is what she's talking about, is that we are against the God of Israel.
It's making us
Yes, making
Satan or
Yeah,
Antichrist.
making us antichrist or anti-God because we're against the God of Israel. But recognize this, remember what I said, and remember what Christ said when he said, "You're of your father, the devil." He was speaking to the Pharisees at the time. The same people, these are the same people now, the same sect of Jews, the same Zionist sect of Jews. So the God of Israel, as I've said, as they stated, might be different to them than it is to another Jew. The God of Israel to them is the one that Christ said is the devil.
Right.
So that's becoming more abundantly clear, considering that, you know, all of you, the goyim out there, are
Which is why they called Christ the devil too, right? They had to call him the devil. But it's interesting. I don't know if you picked up on that, where she says, "I don't believe Yeshua ben Miriam is quoted correctly at all in the Christian Bible." So she almost covers him and is apologetic. Steve goes on to say, when she talks about Antichrist, you're going against God. She's letting you know clearly that Israel, or the Zionists, will be ushering in their very own Messiah. And it will be the Jewish Messiah of their book. And remember that the only way Messiah can be ushered in is for these 7 Noahide laws to be dispersed over all of the nations. And I think that's kind of coming to a close. I'm not sure if there's just a couple of nations left that have not ascribed to these Noahide laws.
Well, the United Nations has basically adopted them in the same way under the guise of education, because see, we need to be re-educated about what the deal is. And as Doreen Dotan points out in her videos, I mean, you could watch some of her videos, and we're going to play a few of her clips because
they're priceless. And, you know, and here's the thing I have to say, she truly believes what she's saying. I don't think that, you know, at some points you'll think she's crazy, and then at some points, but she's telling the truth. It's unbelievable. You don't want to see it. You don't want to see that demeanor coming from anyone. There's so much vitriol. And as you watch the videos, we'll link all of them below, but you know, make sure to pay attention to her teaching, especially the one where she gives you the preface on how to watch her videos. The instructional video that you get before you watch her videos, that one's good.
Yeah, we're gonna play a few clips, but there's another site, Now You See TV, or show that he does, called On the Mark, with Dr. Pigeon. Now, he's going to read a little bit of what the Noahide laws and how they've been adopted into the United States. And then he's going to talk a little bit about the rabbi that we've spoke about earlier, the founder of Chabad.org.
Approved March 20th, 1991, signed by George Bush, President of the United States of America. That's H.W. Bush. Okay, public law here in the United States exalting Rabbi Schneerson and Chabad Lubavitch as part of our Education Day. Well, since we're closing in on March 26th, let's have a little education as to exactly what Schneerson is proposing for us. Okay. But what about the United Nations? Did they weigh in on this? Take a look at slide 6. On June 10th, 2013, the United Nations diplomats from several different nations, including Egypt and Israel, attended the One People, One World, right? Orbis Unum, One World, Novus Ordo Seclorum, New World Order conference, which was hosted by the Institute of Noahide Code.
One world religion, New World Order. This is the actual logo.
Mhm.
The Institute of Noahide Code. Okay, the Institute of Noahide Code, which is an institute which celebrates a two-class system of.
Oh, the audio goes out here for a second.
Sorry, guys.
It comes back, I promise.
Laws. A summary of the conference was uploaded as a PDF to the United Nations website. According to this UN summary of the conference, the attending delegates signed a Declaration of the 7 Laws of Noah, which emphasized the importance of the 7 Noahide laws in maintaining peace, justice, and harmony among peoples and nations. The conference organizer, Rabbi Cohen, emphasized the need for monotheism. What does monotheism mean? That means that we need to get rid of those infidels that claim that there is a son of Ben Elohim. Those people need to go.
That's you.
Because there only needs to be monotheism, right? We want to have monotheism in order to unite the world under the one true God. That is, the one true God as we see the one true God. And reiterated the Noahide law prohibitions against idolatry, blasphemy, which you talked about earlier, Jake, and forbidden sexual relations. Now, what we're going to talk about when we get into the Talmud is this sexual relations that aren't forbidden, okay? The UN document states the Noahide laws are laws which all peoples of the world are obligated to follow, except when you talk about Noahide protocols, those Noahide protocols do not apply to Jews. Okay, so let's talk about Rabbi Menachem Schneerson.
Here it is.
Okay, slide 7. Rabbi Menachem Schneerson was a leading figure of the Noahide law movement and head of the Chabad Lubavitch. Schneerson made statements about non-Jews, such as claiming that non-Jewish souls come from a satanic spheres, while only Jewish souls are holy. In the book Jewish Fundamentalism in Israel, written by secular Israeli activist Israel Shahat and American professor Norton Mesvinsky, Rabbi Schneerson is quoted about non-Jews being satanic, saying that non-Jews and Jews are of a different species and that non-Jews are indeed satanic. According to the rabbi's hate-filled logic, a non-Jew's life is in vain and purposeless beyond his or her service to Jews. No, I didn't say that. Rabbi Schneerson said that. He is the rabbi honored in Public Law 102.14. Huh? What do you think, Jack?
So, Rabbi Schneerson said that. So, what we're hearing is there's not a whole lot of racism on this side. There's a lot on that side.
Right. And you know what, Derek, we were talking about this earlier. I used to teach a class at my church. I went to a Baptist church and I taught a class called The Jewish Roots of Christianity. And again, I was raised in a church that was very non-anti-Semite and hugely respected a Jewish culture. And I was married to a Jewish man who is a non-Messianic believer. I mean, was not a believer. And I used to have friends of mine in Bible study, they would look at me and marvel and say, how could you be married to a Jew? And I would say, how could you worship one? And they would never have a comment on that. So I think the hard part for me in listening to this, and I'm sure a lot of you can agree if you were raised in the Bible Belt like I was, and you were kind of Zionist I really was. I would consider myself Zionist, and, pro-Israel, they should have a right to exist in their own country. Absolutely. But when I started digging deeper and seeing some of these comments like Doreen Dotan and Rabbi Schneerson, and I saw how much disdain they had for me who had been defending them, it was almost unbearable. Like I didn't want to see that. I don't want to see it. I still don't want to see it.
Yeah,
this is tough.
No, it's hard, and this is the thing. what makes these things so difficult to see, it's just like when, when people first started watching my videos and I was disclosing that the God of the Old Testament that the Jews revered so much, Jesus was saying is the devil. It was difficult to come to terms with for me, a person that had grown up a Christian my whole life. And so that was very troubling. Then they confirm it.
Right.
So if you started following my videos a year ago and you were astonished then, well, you just get to have it confirmed by these folks here. Now, this is Doreen Dotan.
Yeah, let me set this one up because you know how we're just talking about those laws are subjective. You're about to hear exactly how subjective they are, because she's going to give you a new identity for God, how God was identified and created by the Jews. She's going to talk about the Jews actually creating stars, I think she says in here, and
Yes.
issuing directives to create destructive weather so that, we would be subverted as goyim. So really interesting stuff, and basically kind of how they're going to take down the world.
Yeah, basically she admits to Owen, and we're going to show you, she's going to tell you and disclose who her family is in one of these videos. So you can get an understanding of who the Illuminati actually are. But let's have a listen to Doreen Dotan.
I'm going to tell you straight up, boys and girls.
Boys and girls.
The God of Israel is the creation of Israel. It was our progenitors who came up with the idea of, instead of being lost in a world in which people were serving competing gods and had to propitiate each one of them, and that their interests conflicted with one another, and you never know which god it was wanted what from you and how to behave, so just propitiate them all, which required an awful lot of work. They all wanted their fatlings, and they all wanted their duck eggs, and they all wanted to. It said, let's conglomerate all that into one God who's benevolent, who doesn't want those kinds of sacrifices. Let's come up with the idea of an overarching power that is basically benevolent. That was the Jews' gift to the world. We came up with that bright idea. And it's a darn good idea. That is not the God of the Christians.
So very quickly, now you can understand it. When I ran an Israeli company, I was astonished that about 90% of the Israelis that I knew were atheists. They don't even believe in God, because clearly they invented that God. That's what she's saying. And the Christians don't believe in that God, and so they have a problem with it. We actually believe in the real Father, but they have a problem with us not believing in the God they invented, as she said.
They created him, and after all, he doesn't need as many sacrifices as all those other gods we had to propitiate.
So we're saving the world one sacrifice at a time. Granted, I don't know where she's coming up with that didn't require so many sacrifices, because that's all they did up until Christ's day.
But she still has a little bit more.
Yeah, so we're keep going with this.
God of the Christians is a God that can be challenged by an evil force. I can't imagine. I'm really hard pressed to think of an idea that's worse than that one. The God of Israel's servants, that is the water, the land, the fire, and the air, are not going to tolerate that anymore.
Mm-mm.
We're not going to tolerate that.
At all.
people of Israel put overriding directives into their creation that lower levels of creation cannot override.
That's us.
Which is very clever.
Very clever.
It's very clever. Now, what's remarkable, we're gonna go to. There's another piece on this video, isn't there?
Yeah, we're gonna go to
1758.
yeah, on Goyim. Go to the Goyim.
Right here.
Yeah.
And that is what time?
137. We're upticking reality.
Oh yes.
And this is where she's telling you all about who the Goyim are, and you'll find out how bad you really are and from where you fall.
Upticking reality to return it to the original vision of God. And as a result, you're seeing major changes, not only on Earth, but also in the solar system and beyond.
So, you may recall this guy here in the Matrix.
Starting to sound like him.
Yeah, starting to sound like him.
I am the architect.
I am the architect.
Created the matrix.
I created the Matrix. So
I can take it down.
she's saying that they're upticking and that they're actually changing and causing the conditions in the sky, causing the conditions on the ground, earthquakes, upheavals, because they're angry, because they are God.
And they're using these overarching directives that are much more powerful than any underling directives that we could issue out. I'm not sure what she means by that, but in one of her videos, she talks about being in the Illuminati. And we'll show you a small clip of that. So maybe she does know more about this than meets the eye. Maybe she is not speaking in spiritual terms and she does know that that's happening.
Oh, no, I don't think that she's crazy. I think she's disclosing the truth. I think she's disclosing who's actually running the show.
Mm-hmm.
She's probably a lot more well connected, which she talks about. Her family were mobsters, and you'll hear it right out of her own mouth. She's definitely got some crazy things to her. She admits to being a narcissist.
Her mother was a narcissist.
No, she actually said in the one video that she's a narcissist.
She's a much less vitriolic.
Yes,
narcissist.
but she's a much less vitriolic narcissist. So was there another one on this Goyim?
Yeah, to go back to Genesis. This is where she's talking about we're issuing directives to create destructive weather for you because you're so evil. This is Genesis, back to the Genesis video, 1758.
1758.
You really have to watch these to get the full context and get the full vitriol and the angst really that she has for Christians. And it's at some points she even cries because she says we're so evil, and it's that we have hurt her father so much. It's really odd to listen to. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, and she says to even make the videos and discuss or think about Christians that she has to block her gag reflex.
No longer be tolerated. So right now you're in
Hold on, let me back that
1758.
But as a directive that Christians are putting on the creation starting from ground zero. And then you will understand how sick it is.
How sick we are.
And why it can no longer be tolerated. So right now you're in a situation where that volcano has been found, the caldera has been found to be 2.5 times larger than they thought. That doesn't mean that they discovered that it's 2.5 times larger. It means that it was given the directive to become 2.5 times larger and active. And the earthquake that you've been warned about by Russia, and that fault that's opening up through the middle of the Bible Belt. When the people of Israel created the God of Israel, they put into effect overarching directives which would nullify all other directives in the situation in which somebody really messed up the creation so badly that it became untenable. And that is the situation in which you unfortunately find yourselves. I suggest that you do real repentance, and really, really adopt a much healthier idea that there is one God, not one God that's actually three, but there is one God who is absolutely benevolent and absolutely omnipotent and absolutely omniscient, and that nothing can compete with that, nothing wants to compete with that, and that who's running the universe. That is a much healthier way to kickstart your day.
Kickstart your day that way, folks.
Kickstart your day. Wow. So, already played you. She sounds a whole lot like this guy, doesn't she? From The Matrix. And in fact, his disdain for humans, or as he says, some less human, sounds a whole lot. If you ever get a chance, just watch this speech. This is The Matrix Reloaded, the architect scene, part 1 and 2. Watch the entire thing, and you're going to hear somebody that sounds exactly like her. And ironically, The Matrix was made by two brothers called the Wachowski brothers.
How would two Jewish men know all of these intricate details? It's starting to add up, right?
Yes.
And when you watch these videos with Doreen, and I don't just, we're commanded to love everyone. I really feel like she's struggling. She talks about struggling. I think she has some other psychological issues. I'm not sure. She talks about psychopathy in her family. So we're certainly not here to make fun of that at all. But she does bring up an interesting point that her maternal grandparents were first cousins. And she talks about because they were inbred that that produced some psychopathy in her family. So we're not laughing at that, but I think she does make some pretty interesting comments here.
Yeah, so this is her talking about her
Illuminati background,
yes,
or supposed Illuminati background, and how influential her family has been. And so you get the feeling when you watch her that she has been her whole life, Derek, in the know.
Yeah.
I mean, you sense that because she's almost restraining all of the stuff she knows. She doesn't ever tell everything she knows. So I feel like there's a lot of accuracy to this. So
yeah, now this video that we're going to play is no longer on YouTube. She apparently removed a bunch of videos from YouTube, and these are up on Vimeo. We had to find them, where she talks about these things. And there's some other things that I'll play. You'll probably find quite funny, though.
There are people in my family who hold very important positions that involve a lot of influence in the world. So one might think that they belong to the Illuminati, if you're of that kind of a mind. But it's really not the way it's described. I've never seen any kind of satanic worship in my family or weird cultic activity. I mean, none of that really goes on. I will describe how there is some kind of a dark spirituality that comes into this, but there's nothing like cultic activity, which I've said before. But I want to give you a few anecdotes
So she discloses in this video about her family, and there's quite a bit of mental issues within her family, and she's talking about it being quite common amongst Jews. Probably because of the inbreeding, that being close cousins, who knows what that is, but that's probably, as I said, quite the different sect. Now, you can look at this and think that it's outlandish, but you can consistently find these statements that come from her mouth and about what is happening from others, not low-level rabbis, high-level rabbis. You can go to Chabad.org and you can read and you can watch videos. We were going to play a couple, but I didn't want them to come and attack this channel because I played the video from their actual site. But I would suggest paying very close attention, but more importantly, study up on the Talmud so you understand their veiled evil in this, that these are these 7 Noahide laws of peace, but they're literally 7 Noahide laws of death if you know exactly how they're managed through Talmudic law. So it's quite startling. And just to help you have a little bit of fun before we close off here today, this is another video that she has up, and this is from 9 years ago. So I don't know, maybe she was first introduced to weed or something. At
Video
this
about the Rothschilds. I'm wearing my gold-colored caftan. And because I'm getting instructions about what to say only from the Vatican and not directly from Zeta Radiculi, I'm able to use much smaller relay recepting devices. These are cleverly designed to look like bobby pins rather than the big ones that pick up from other galaxies that look like the hair sticks.
I just thought I'd leave you with that.
These earrings are picking up from the Vatican.
Yes.
And I only say what I'm told to say.
Roger, please call back. Go, stop talking to me now.
No, listen, I don't know where Derek found that one, but there were actually a couple of other bites from the Genesis video, but there are a couple of her videos. You be entertained all day. Here's what I would tell you. A lot of what she says is very true. You can't argue with it. You go, wow, she's on top of truth. And then boom, she lowers the boom on you and she tells you how terrible you are and how much she hates you. And the best video, this one, is the guidelines for participation in Doreen Dotan's channel. You have to.
We're going to watch some of this right here. So just listen to a few bites of this.
My videos are missions of mercy to the Christian world. You are not in a position to teach me, preach me, fix me, explain to me. Quite frankly, the overriding emotion that I feel for the Christian world is revulsion. I have to control my gag reflex in order to be able to make these videos, because in between the waves of revulsion, I feel some measure of compassion and seeing what your very near future holds. I'm trying to help those of you who have some modicum of wits about you to understand that you have brought destruction upon yourself. Our relationship is a strictly one-way relationship. I teach and you receive. You like what you receive? Sit and listen. You don't, shove off. You are not in a position to teach me about my heritage.
Now I have to say, Derek, that
Christianity.
Hold on. Now, you know what? I have to defend her on that, because who are we non-Jews to tell her about her heritage?
Of course.
I fully agree with that. That's, well within her right to say that. But her delivery is priceless.
Yeah, but
she's almost as good as Church Lady on Saturday Night Live.
It's painful to even talk to you underlings.
You underlings, and this is what's going to befall you. And that is true, right? It's like she's read Revelation. She knows what's happening because maybe they're orchestrating it.
Yes. And by the way, if you've ever listened to any of the Rothschilds speak, they sound about like this. It's crazy. But so I would say that her Illuminati family, who she also admits in the video, were
psychopathy video.
Yeah, psychopathy video, but that they were murderers and assassins and everything else. And
she's in the know somewhere.
Yeah.
She's been, she obviously has a deeper knowledge of things than we know. She's frustrated. And I don't doubt that she is trying to warn us to some degree. But the fact that it's strictly a one-way street, I talk, you listen. Soup Nazi all over.
Let's see now. And if you haven't seen it, there is a little bit of creepiness here. Her channel, this is her channel art with this black mask on her face. Now, I can appreciate the color of the mask. I don't know. But Doreen, if you're watching, and I'm sure you'll watch this because you've already sent me a few nasty comments on other videos of mine, telling me what a moron I was to even say the word Christ. So, but I want to tell you that we love you.
Right.
And I know the last thing you want to hear is you want to hear anybody that isn't as good as you tell you that we love you, but we do. And
and fully defend your right to say what you want to say.
Yeah, of course,
you know?
say it.
Absolutely.
But again, if you're following what's going on with Chabad and with the laws, the anti-Semitic laws, it will prevent us from actually having this conversation, and would probably prevent us from even having a dialogue. So with another person, because we would be questioning them, so they could immediately accuse us of being anti-Semitic. So it's very problematic. But what we're going to do is I've got to put all of this together for you. I'm going to be putting all of the documentation for you and putting it in the community section. When you go to Global Witness channel, just go to the community tab. And as soon as I can put this all together, I'll post this in the community tab so you can have all of the notes. And we've got other videos here that you can watch where we've broken down what she says. So you can kind of go to the pieces. We've shown you a few of these things here, but we wanted to just bring this up and make you aware, because the war is going to take place. And so the things that I'll be speaking about is what to expect as a result of this, and then going into Revelation and disclosing what it all means. So now you can go into Revelation, and you're going to be able to read that in a much different way, which is also ironic that you were mentioning, Malia, that although Jews won't talk about the New Testament at all, but they'll quote Revelation.
Quote Revelation like the back of their hand.
Yes.
And so it makes you wonder if that's being recreated by force,
yes,
influence. When you start watching some of these videos, that recurrent theme is going to come across every single time. It's pushing this agenda, pushing this agenda, pushing this agenda, and really setting the world up for what we fear is huge deception and fall for the Antichrist. We already know what's going to happen, but and we certainly don't make light of that. Our goal would be for Doreen to actually come on the show and chat with us. I think she's very knowledgeable.
I would love it.
She understands Hebrew, and I have no doubt in my mind that she fully believes everything that she's saying, and has some deep hurts there with regard to maybe the way she was treated by other Christians in the past who tried to proselytize her. I have no idea, but we thank you, Doreen, for letting us use your videos. We did have some fun with it, but it truly is a very serious issue. When you watch the videos, we'd love to get your feedback. Please comment on the video after we post it so that we can answer questions next time. And feel free. We love it when you send us other YouTube videos or other video content that could help us sharpen our knowledge as well.
Yes, and I see that Miss Mademoiselle said that Doreen is a Kabbalist. She does speak of Jewish mysticism, but also at the same time says that there isn't anything mystic about Judaism. So it's a little confusing. And I think maybe what she's talking about is it might be classified as mysticism, but she says it's not mystic at all. It's real because we created God.
Definitely, if you haven't subscribed to Steve Danoon's channel, you may not agree with everything he talks about, but Israeli News Live, if you like to follow what's going on in Israel, he's got a very fair and balanced approach to the way he views Israel as a Hebrew himself. I love him, and his wife is just adorable.
Yes,
so,
yes, they're both very, very sweet, and they have kind of a relationship where she doesn't necessarily agree with him all the time either, and shoves him around. So they're fun to watch.
If I can get you to wear suspenders,
yes, I'll wear suspenders next time. White ones.
White ones. Someone send those to us, okay? White ones.
Yeah, because I'm definitely not buying them. So we appreciate having you all here, and love that you've joined us for this. I would really, really suggest, like I said, come back to the community tab. When you go to the Global Witness, just click on my head down below here. I'm going to show you here on the screen so you don't, so you can actually see where to go. Because I see people ask me, when you go to the website, when you're on the channel, it's this community tab right here. So you click on the community tab and you see I've posted other things. I can post videos, I can post documents. I'll post a link to this document, which has all of the links to many, many of the videos, all of the Chabad, all of the Noahide laws, most of the research that we've been doing over the past many days. And I do suggest watching more of Doreen's videos. Watch Steve Danoon's videos as well, and all of the videos that we put in here. That you're going to learn a tremendous amount from it. But we just wanted to make you aware of it, and then as we go forward, we're going to be discussing as I said, we'll answer your questions, but we're going to be discussing where this applies now within Scripture, because it's there. And clearly there is, as you said, Malia, forcing prophecy to happen.
Mm-hmm.
They control this. That's probably why they pushed for Rome to include Revelation, because I think that they wanted it to be a roadmap so you would know that their God was coming and that their Antichrist would come. The difference is that they've confused you as to what that Antichrist will look like. And we were discussing today that that they've probably already picked that person, and they will give that person the power to do things. If she is correct, and the things that we're seeing, if they actually do have the ability to cause earthquakes with HARP,
Mm-hmm.
to blow up a caldera, or to change the weather, which we know that they do, all of these wonders that the Antichrist will do, well, that makes sense. And it wouldn't be a surprise, considering that when Moses left Egypt, he probably, he had the Ark of the Covenant with him, which is why Pharaoh started chasing him after letting him go, because he probably stole that thing. I wonder what that ark actually does. And it wouldn't surprise me if that person shows up with it. And that will obviously lure in. And you can see exactly why so many Christians, so many Jews, so many Muslims, so many people in the world will be completely deceived by this Antichrist, this false Christ. This is the plastic Jesus we've been talking about. And that person is going to deceive many. I can promise you that I'll sit back and laugh at him. I will, because I've been expecting this a long time. So we love you very much. We thank you for joining us tonight and allowing us to bring this to you, because things are going to get bumpy. But hang on, stay in love. We love you all much, and we'll talk to you soon.